Okay, this is an open letter to President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris. From Weaver, City, Roseman, California. A very tired and emotionally screwed up. 6:51 in the morning, West Coast time. It is July 26th of 2024. It is the Weaver Agency of Roseman, California. The zombie out here. Sorry, guys. This one is going to be an open address letter to the executive branch at this point over here. Let them know my thoughts and feelings about what happened the past several days and also the past 4 years. We'll start out with the last few days, shall we? I caught only pieces of the farewell address, basically, passing of the torch. I did feel betrayed a bit. I was hoping maybe President Biden would actually be able to do it this time, but I had reservations when I saw the Democratic Party did the Caesar play of Shakespeare at the end. Trusted advisors. Well, we all know in the end of that play how it turned out, didn't we? And that's what I saw the Democratic Party doing. And I felt a betrayal on that one. I saw the betrayal on that one. And I'm thinking, what are they saying that I had missed? And I had missed a lot. I missed a lot on this one. Um, I know President Biden was hiding it. And, I don't blame him for that. We have a society that doesn't like to deal with elderly people because they feel like their mental and physical abilities are deteriorating so much that they will not be effective in whatever kind of positions that they have. And therefore, it's necessary to pass the torch along. I saw the performance of the debate. Normally, I would see a president ready to tear apart a contender. He struggled a great deal on this one, which made me think, was it mental facilities going out, or was it physical, or both? And despite the reassurances that the press were told about POTUS being okay for a man of his age, but that didn't feel or sound sufficient enough for his own party, the Democratic Party, to support him in the last race. I had a feeling that he was thinking about this one a long time ago when he selected Kamala Harris from California to be the vice president of the United States. She had already earned a reputation. She had already had her scars and already had the theoretical blood in her teeth. Being a prosecutor, an attorney general, she had political savvy and she had courtroom smarts. And the law she was not afraid of because she used it as a weapon. But she also used it not just as a weapon, but as a tool. So in a legal sense, she would know where she would stand. President Biden, a statesman. He's been that way for a long time. I was hoping maybe he'd have another 4 years, but when I heard about the COVID virus knocking on his doorstep, I knew that was it. One thing I've come across regarding that damn bug, even the immune compromised and the elderly are no match for this monster, despite the fact that they would take antibiotics to get rid of this monster, even the shots. There was already a beachhead established already. And that's what nailed the president. He's feeling better about this. Ah, there goes the coffee maker. Hang on, guys. Well, I'm not knocking against stovetop coffee when you're still dealing with the bug war continuing. If you happen to see anything crawling, don't scream, don't freak. It's just a war I have to fight on a day-by-day basis in this place. But now the the Trumplicans have made that more apparent that we have to deal with. When they picked a fight with Vice President Kamala Harris, they picked a fight on this one. I support Vice President Harris for her campaign of being the next president of the United States. Like I had supported Hillary Clinton when she was facing it too. The thing that I noticed about the differences between the two ladies is the times and the events. Hillary Clinton at one time was the Secretary of State, and she was dealing with the Benghazi situation that happened. I don't know how else to call it. People got killed. And they made a scapegoat and scrap out of her. Turned her into Scrapple. Just so they can get the political points necessary to steamroll her out of it and installing a dictator. Why not? The press is calling him a fascist. I call him a dictator. He's a golfer. He's a loafer. He doesn't like to do anything else but himself. He likes to spend time on a golf course, but not being a president of the United States, which is a 25-8. But we're seeing this happen, aren't we? Currently in California, I am trying to get to the news on KTLA, Channel 5, Los Angeles. Find out the fire situations that we have. And yes, this is going to be something that even the presidency has to deal with. Besides EPA's Department of Interior, the Forestry, and what their next guidelines are going to be on how to deal with mega fires. Or any geologic catastrophes that may or may not occur in a certain volcanic park. And it's horrifying to see this thing happen. But this is a particular nasty situation, not to mention Israel tearing itself apart. And Kamala Harris is going to have to deal with that one, unfortunately. It's going to get a lot worse. They're going to be talking about fire, and I'm putting it on the record right now.
Morning, KTLA's Carlos Herrera, live at Lake Elsinore with the latest details for us. Carlos, good morning.
Welcome to Riverside.
And good morning, Frank. We're in the neighborhood where it started
Macy
that were
Fire.
destroyed sit on a property just up this hillside. We've learned it is a home and a garage, though officials will be assessing all the destruction and the damage later today. We've also learned from authorities that 600 homes in this area remain evacuated.
Oh my God.
Night flying helicopters made several water drops in the most threatened areas, providing much needed support to crews on the ground who began digging containment lines. Though some flames are still burning close to homes, officials say firefighters have made significant progress overnight, mostly because the winds died down. The fire is now 15% contained. The Macy fire has been raging since yesterday evening. It started in the vicinity of the El Carrizo campground near the intersection of Orange Street and Macy Street. The flames were running downhill pretty quickly, scorching more than 60 acres in just less than an hour and heading directly towards hundreds of homes.
Terrific.
Elsinore High School is set up for evacuees who need assistance, as well as Animal Friends of the Valley for anybody who needs assistance with animals.
Cal Fire says the evacuation order remains in place for all properties south of Grand Avenue, east of Fairview Street, and west of Ortega Highway, which is closed from Grand Avenue all the way to the Orange County line until further notice. There are several agencies participating in the firefighting efforts here. Hundreds of crews on the ground with numerous firefighting air tankers from throughout the state flying fire suppression missions. As conditions allow, we're learning that officials are still discussing whether or not they will be resuming those air operations later this morning. We've learned also that no injuries have been reported. We're hoping to get an update in terms of acreage and containment soon. I'll send it back to you guys.
Carlos, thank you. And in Northern California, the massive park fire continues burning. Now police have arrested a man on suspicion of arson, which may have caused the fire. Police say
164K.
the 42-year-old suspect has been seen pushing a burning car into a gully yesterday and then leaving the area as flames spread. This wildfire already the largest of the year, engulfing more than 164,000 acres. Nearly 1,200 fire personnel are deployed to fight this fire, which is only 3% contained at this hour.
I had to put that on there. I had to put that on there because it's making me feel sick to my stomach. You want to hear something about the issues I still have to have to keep talking to a therapist about? I'm going to be posting a few videos on my own channel, and some people may not understand what it's all about, but trust me, when you have issues like I have, they matter a great deal. I'm looking at a map on the what's called fireweatheravalanche.org, and it's a huge fire map of the West. A fire's happening up in Canada, but also on the West Coast, including California, my home state. Chico is the one that they were talking about, the park fire. Updated, well, let's see, last map 9 hours and 22 minutes ago, so they haven't quite updated the website yet, but it's about 124K. Okay, so roughly talking about 125K. We talked about disasters happening. We're going to be looking at, after the fires are going to be happening, and once we get into the rainy season, we're going to be talking about massive mudslides all over the place. When you start denuding the ground of watershed material that would hold the moisture in the soil long enough into the substrata, when there's no watershed to do that, and the rains come, you're talking about slides all over the place. What's even worse is when the moisture is locked in the strata for a long period of time, including certain areas that people think it's pretty to see a view. And then finally discovering the canyons that their houses are sliding down to the end because there's a lot of moisture that acted as a lubricant. The geologists didn't account for that one, but they should have. We're going to be seeing a lot of that this winter if we get enough rain coming in. Regarding to what happened out in Washington, D.C., I was seeing these protesters turning our area into a graffiti zone. It ticked me off a bit. One or two of my videos talked about that one. Burning the American flag, I know, is a desecration of our American heritage, life, everything that matters to us, wrapped up in 3 color schemes on a cloth. But as the courts have ruled, even burning a flag of the American, it is a First Amendment right, or protected speech anyway. A lot of people didn't like it, not even back in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. We had the protesters during that time. But we have now as a time. We have now. But they tried to install the Palestinian flag on U.S. soil. Not happening. Not happening. So in that essence, I would say no to that. It's another issue she's going to have to be dealing with, the First Amendment rights of people left and right on this one. What can be construed as First Amendment and what's not construed as First Amendment, despite the fact SCOTUS can't make up his mind half the time, not even the federal courts, conservative as hell as they are. And we have Congress split. We have so much psychosis happening in the House of Representatives that we don't know what's going on these days. And I've been noticing that more and more. The thing concerned about the last 4 years is all the obstruction happening is they wanted the chaos and confusion because they wanted one guy to theoretically to gather the credit, to gather the ego, to gather the pride, and to strut his stuff. It's not for the good of the country. It was good for an ego. And they were willing to do whatever it took to not only destroy a country, to satisfy an ego. That's basically what it was. But they're not saying that. Not as much anyone on the floor anyway, of the Congress. Not in the Senate and definitely not in the reps. Or should I say the House of the Circus. Because it turned out to be a circus. A multi-ring circus that I couldn't even identify who was the actors and who was the clowns and who was the ringleader. Of course, the ringleader being alluded to all the time. And there was a motion, or actually quite a few of them, trying to get rid of both President Biden and Vice President Harris recently, so they can install the Speaker of the House as the President of the United States. Now that definitely would be throwing off our election cycle. That would be throwing off everything. And they're trying to do that. But it's not going to go through the Senate. At least I hope not. Besides, President won't sign off on it anyway. They're going to make a resolution. They'll make a resolution, but it's not going to be signed off anyway. And all this chaos and confusion, this is going to be a major fight that if we still have this carried over into the next Congress. I'm wondering just how good her negotiating skills are as as a prosecutor and litigator. And she's going to navigate her way through Congress and be able to deal with the lunatic asylum we call Congress now. So I'm wondering how, when, or if that President Biden steps down, and then we got Harris taking the baton. If or when she gets elected, getting the most majority of electoral and pop, how she's going to be able to deal with a divided Congress. I'm predicting it. With all the federal and state charges being leveled at several politicians of the Democratic Party, both Senate and Representative, I'm wondering how the next election cycle is really going to be running, and whether or not we're actually going to have a country left or not. We are so polarized and divided right now. I think it would terrify everybody if we actually did revert back to 1860. But then again, that was a lot of divisiveness and a lot of anger, a lot of frustration and rage. We look at that, but we keep failing to look at the reasons why. Traditions are important, yes. But some traditions need to be modified or gotten rid of. Putting people in chains doesn't matter which particular race or color or creed or religion background. Nationality doesn't matter. Still wrong. Paid employees is one thing. You paid your employees, but treat them as slaves. But the conservatives wanted that. They wanted that continuing. And the fun thing about history is how it keeps revealing things to you and just keep forgetting about it. But being misconstrued down the road. The Democrats of the South were the landlords, were the landholders, were the Dixiecrats called. They wanted their tradition. They wanted their uh, way of life. And they still depended upon slavery. And they didn't care. They didn't want to industrialize the country. They didn't want to industrialize the colonies. No. They wanted to keep things copacetic. Wasn't going to happen. They decided to do a loose coalition, the Confederacy, and show the Union people just what they were going to be meaning after 4 bloody years. Did we shed enough bloodshed for that insanity? For ideology? Are we going to be doing the same thing out here? Would we contend with of having military and police force out here combined into one to enforce and rule of a tyranny, of an autocracy? Are we going to be able to stand it, or are we just going to be saying, okay, whatever? I think our ancestors would have a field day with us. I pray that they would have a field day with us. I pray that they would haunt the living crap out of us during our waking dreams and our daylight hours. The nighttime would be the presence, just to scare the living crap out of people. But during the daytime, give them the willies. Because we would need to be we would need to be reminded. We need to be reminded of what this country went through and still going through right now. If you look at it back, hang on a second. I present the wad. Okay. No magic trick. But I do want to show something to you. If everybody can take this out and look, what do you see? You see the pyramid, right? Look closer. Sorry. Is it completed? No, it isn't. Why not? It should be completed in someone's image, shouldn't there? It should be American. Ah, but what version and what vision? And who says so? We want it one way, but we can't have it that way because somebody else wants it another way. But we can't deal with that one, can we? Because it's not pluralistic. We want specific, idealistic, and permanent. And that way we would have a contingency and a consistency of it. That whatever our ideals were a long time ago had been cemented over by someone else's dictatorship. They want it their way, and therefore the country will be this way forever. They like the term forever, but they keep realizing that their own mortal remains has a finite shelf limit. Much as our own life here on planet Earth, being among the mortals, we also have that problem, don't we? So we leave it to our future generations, and we'll think we'll be happy about it, will we? Or are we going to turn ourselves into another bloody Civil War era? An epoch put into the history books where we screwed ourselves up one more time because of our ideas and ideologies. Now, we couldn't accept plurality, actually. We couldn't accept differences. You ever had beef stew? You had chicken stew? You had chicken soup? Of course, you had chicken stew or a stew of sorts. So, what consists of? Meat, vegetables, starches, flavoring. Oh, yeah, liquid. And a combination of these things by themselves, by individually, you would understand and taste the differences of what each ingredient is. If you're a cook and a chef, you understand this. I'm an amateur. I don't know a damn thing. I just throw things together and hope to God I don't get killed by it. But in dealing with what we look at for viewpoints of how we're supposed to be dealing with things, I refer to the stew. Now I know there was another fable. There was another story out there that people would tell once in a while, if they still remembered it. A traveler comes into a village. He's got a stone in his pocket. He wants to get some food. Can't get any food from anybody in that place. Wouldn't serve him. They don't care. Go away, go away, go away. So he goes to the center of town. There's a well. Pulls out a bucket of water. Puts the stone in there. Builds a fire. Hopefully the metal bucket is going to be there sufficient for him. So he takes out a spoon and starts stirring it around. And then you have a few curious people out there trying to wonder, asking themselves, what is he doing? So they ask him, oh, this is going to be good stone soup. Have soup without an ingredient or two. Slowly but surely, the town donates what they have. At the end of the story, we have a town made together by soup because everybody added stuff to the soup. And the man, he had a stomach full. He still has a stone with him. He went on to the next village. They never added a conclusion to that one. I thought it was still conclusions. I like stories. I like fables. I like hearing about this stuff and remembering the stuff and trying to keep track of the stuff in my head. Because we are living in that kind of fabled time where we need these reminders of how to treat people as we want them to be treated. As people. People say, well, they're sheeple. Well, what's this sheeple crap anyway? Being led around, being led astray, and you don't like that? Well, then I guess in certain theological philosophies that we study to enhance ourselves mentally and spiritually, that we do have teachers. We have people who will walk us through difficult times and educate us, guide us, that we follow on a constant basis and keep relearning the lessons over and over again until we get them right. But still, we are still under protection of the shepherd, of sorts. Doesn't matter what name we we label the person under. Doesn't matter. We have a shepherd leading us sheep around. And yes, we are people. But I don't go bah. I don't have any ram's horns on me either. But I follow certain examples. I try to anyway. But I don't want to force it on anybody either. What I like is having a plurality for our society. We can't at least accept and acknowledge them. Actually, if we can't accept them 100%, at least we can acknowledge them. Try to learn from each other if we can. Maybe the village still needs that stone soup. But we are also the mariner. Coolidge was trying to write a story, um, poem, to be sold. If I heard the story right on this one. And he was using Judeo-Christian examples in it. All about a sailor goes out with his crew, has a mascot as a seagull, came on board. They're having good times on there, but they're wondering if the seagull was bad or not. So one day the captain decides he's going to take out the seagull. And they were still having good times until the weather turns foul and ship right into a sea of sargasso and trapped. Supplies run out, no water. They're dying of thirst. The period. And guy feels a lot of remorse for killing that bird. And he sees creatures over there, and somehow he blesses them unaware, according to one of the storylines. And then life and death happen to pop by. And they gamble. Death gets the crew, and the captain still remains alive. But somehow, because of his action taken of blessing creatures unaware and praying for forgiveness concerning about shooting at the albatross, the dead crew become zombies and sails the ship back home, where he gets off onto a pier where people are out there to help him out. But the ship sinks. The dead will be with the dead. Now he's a changed man. He's talking to people. He wants to be shrived. He wants to get this off his chest. So he talks to them, tells them the story. He feels like he has been branded for life. He has been forgiven, but he's branded for life. He must tell the story to make sure that everybody else realizes and understand of what are their actions. That's why at the beginning of the story, the mariner goes into a wedding, into the reception, and sees one man sitting by himself. He is going to be the next mariner. He is going to be the next storyteller. And therefore, he is going to be held transfixed by the eyes of the mariner, staring deeply into him and making sure the story is going to be remembered and told. Because at the end of the story, the mariner goes off to the next village to do the same thing, and the next, and the next, all through the days of his life. And every one of us who hear the warnings are shaken by it, because now we are the mariner and we have our own stories that we can relate with and tell people about. I deal with the story because I have dealt with a lot of things that I should have been the mariner in real life. And I relate with him. But I also relate with a wedding guest. There's a lot of things that when one person reads and experiences literature in various forms, these things kind of transform a person, you know. So, in explaining this to the executive branch, I just wish the others would understand. They don't want to understand. They want to be led, but they don't want to take the charge. What they're afraid of is the 600. Did we not understand about that particular poem? Charge of the Light Brigade. Finish up this little ditty here. When I went to college a long time ago as a young man, after getting into high school, I wasted about maybe 2.5 years of college. I didn't study. I studied, but I didn't understand it much. But I struggled a lot. One of the classes I was really trying to enjoy was English literature, poetry. Some things would stick to a heart of a person. Coleridge did, and so did Tennyson. That's why I kept the Charge of the Light Brigade in my head, but mostly of the Mariner. So, for understanding about Lord Alfred Tennyson's poem, it was an observation he was seeing, because there was a battle happening, an actual battle happening. But there was a lot of miscommunication going on that made 600 people, actually 600 soldiers, perish. Hence, we have the poem of the Charge of the Light Brigade. Half a league, half a league onward. All in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, was there a man dismayed? Not so, the soldier knew, someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do or die. Into the valley of the death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of him, cannon to the left of him, cannon in front of him, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they ride and well. Into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell rode the 600. Flashed all their sabres bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. Plunged into the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not quite to 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, with wild horse and hero fell. They that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell. All that was left of them, left of the 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made! All the world wondered. Honor the charge they made. Honor the brigade, noble 600. Decisions that we have to make as leaders. We have to make sure that our 600 come back alive. It doesn't matter which particular battleground it is, whether it be political or otherwise. In politics, casualties are personalities. Trust, bonds, friendship, mutual respect, all in the name of duty. We also have to realize that we are also affecting everybody else with our decisions. Whether or not we have 6 people with ideologies and dreams are going to be coming back in one way or another. It's a hell of an analogy to use in a political rat race. It's a hell of a thing to look at these days. I myself am not a leader. Maybe at one time in my youth I courted myself as such, but I wasn't. I never had it. At least I don't think so. But I'm not looking forward to it anyway. But if I'm going to be sending people back into the political nightmare, I hope that my decisions won't be that catastrophist. There should be another word for it. That there won't be any catastrophes happening in the chambers. That maybe if the ideas and the resolutions and laws, amendments being sent in, maybe the 600 will come across intact and not tattered. My hopes for the Democratic Party, my hopes for the people entering into the fray, they won't be the mariners. They'll be the ones going into village after village with a stone in their pocket and looking for a pot to fix the stone soup in. I hope and pray that we will all share and stew of what we bring to it and what we take out of it, what we share. With that, until next time, guys. We were John C. of Roseman, California.